Hello there and welcome to today's video in which I'm talking about rejection sensitivity and RSD and the ways that I've been affected by rejection sensitivity throughout my whole life. But before that, I should tell you the difference between rejection sensitivity and RSD, and it basically boils down to emotional dysregulation. Emotional dysregulation is seen in both, but if your rejection sensitivity involves intense emotional overwhelm or intense emotional pain, then it falls more in line with rejection sensitivity dysphoria, and it certainly does for me. So now I'm going to go through the various ways that somebody can be affected by RSD, starting with avoidance. So there are various ways we can think about avoidance and what this means, but I have found it really difficult to speak up in meetings as one example. So I can't count the amount of times that I've been sat there around a table with other people thinking, I've got a really interesting point here that I could make, but I just haven't got it in me to speak up because firstly, I don't know when the appropriate moment is to try and interject and say what it is that I want to say. And secondly, I feel just too anxious to say it because I can't help but feel like I might be wrong, even if I'm pretty convinced by whatever I'm saying that is factual. I constantly kind of second guess myself. So I don't see whatever is in my head at the time as wholly reliable, even if I know it is. And it's, yeah, just really frustrating. I've also missed out on various opportunities in my life because of this avoidance, such as social events, going on holiday with other people, and at work because it's often felt impossible to advocate for myself. I'm thinking asking for, more money in terms of my salary or asking for a promotion or anything like that. I just would not have it in me to be able to do these things at all. Next up, people pleasing, and many autistic people will resort to people pleasing, and I'm certainly one of them. And there's been various instances in my life where I've just absolutely gone out of my way to make another person feel comfortable or confident in what they're saying. And yeah, it's just been to my own detriment because I've often felt absolutely exhausted as a response to it. And I can't help but feel annoyed at myself whenever I kind of do this behaviour because ultimately I don't want to do it. I want to be an authentic version of myself, but things get caught up in autistic masking essentially, and you want to present yourself, or I wanted to present myself as somebody who was kind of amenable and agreeable and friendly and somebody that they'd want to hang around with essentially. But of course it's utterly ridiculous because very often these are people that I just wouldn't want to hang around with anyway, but I just always had to be the best and most likable version of myself as I could. Low self-esteem, and I've always struggled with self-esteem. I'd say things are better these days since I've entered perimenopause, and not having to go to work is probably another reason, but low self-esteem is something that I have really struggled with at times. And it's only now that I know that I'm autistic, I can look back and see how much of my personality has depended on masking. And it's really because I've never felt kind of fully formed as a person. It's almost felt like I've been like a second class kind of person, is the best way that I can describe it. It's like I could look at other people and they felt just fully formed and fully able to inhabit who they were, and they'd feel really comfortable in their bodies. And I just never felt like that. I just felt really awkward in terms of both mind and body. And I think our self-esteem does struggle as a result of this, because you can't help but compare yourself to other people, and particularly if you're an undiagnosed autistic person, because we do have fundamental differences. And yeah, this constant comparison thing that I had going on was really, really difficult to deal with at times. The constant feeling of being in trouble. And essentially, I've always felt like I've been in trouble, whether it be through work or through kind of friendships and social groups and stuff. And I'm thinking in particular through work, I've just always felt like I was in trouble, and I'd always have quite difficult relationships with my bosses because of this, because I essentially never really knew where I stood. I never felt comfortable in their presence because I always thought that I was being analysed in some way, and they were looking for ways to find me out, or find my errors in my work. And the worst instance of this actually was, I had a boss who I have talked about on the channel before, but I was being bullied at work, and I'm convinced that she picked up on my anxiety, because she would very often send me an email late on a Friday afternoon to say that she wanted a one-to-one meeting on the following Monday. And this is such a horrible tactic for any boss to pull anyway, but she absolutely knew that I'd be fretting about it over the whole weekend, I'm sure, and boy, did I fret about it. And yeah, it was just really, really horrible, and I was so thankful to leave that job. But that's a kind of more extreme example of feeling like I was in trouble. But this is something that I've carried through every kind of relationship that I've had with anybody in my life, and various friendships have suffered as a consequence of this as well, because I've often felt that if I've left communication too long between myself and friends, that they would be thinking less of me somehow, so it would make me even more convinced not to contact them. So that was really difficult. And I've also spoken about my relationship with alcohol. So essentially, I'd go out and would drink way too much, and I'd really struggle for the following days actually, because I would be convinced that I had said something awful to other people, and I would be basically unforgiven over it. And of course, this was never based in any fact. I was just worrying essentially over nothing, but I just couldn't stop it. It was really, really horrible. Rumination. And this certainly ties into this sense of feeling like you're in trouble, because it's so difficult to quieten a really busy brain, isn't it? And particularly a busy brain that's caught in a negative feedback loop, as my brain will often be. And it's just utterly exhausting. And I've never been able to find a way to deal with this kind of rumination. But I'm thinking in terms of feedback from other people, whether it be at work or perhaps in education, whether it be at school or college. Very often I would get good feedback because I was, generally speaking, a good student, although I did have a difficult time at school for a while. But whenever I'd get kind of neutral feedback, I'd often see that as a real negative. It was almost like there wasn't any real difference between receiving neutral feedback and bad feedback. I felt like they were very much the same. It was just whoever was giving the feedback was just giving a more polite version of bad feedback, really, was how my brain kind of received that information. And I don't know if anybody else will be able to relate to that, but it's been utterly agonising at times when I've not had really good feedback to stuff. Being perceived, and this is a biggie for autistic people, isn't it? I absolutely hate being perceived by other people, and it really has ruined various opportunities I've had in my life. And I'm thinking, in terms of public speaking. I've just always found this kind of near impossible, really, and it might seem ridiculous because I'm here now on YouTube talking to you, but it's a very different scenario for me talking to a camera and talking to a room full of people. I just absolutely get freaked out by the idea of lots of people looking at me and listening to what I'm saying and, all of that stuff, really. And also in terms of my work life, invariably, we're often asked to train other people at work, aren't we? If we have a new member to the team, etc. But I've just always hated being tasked with this because I find it really difficult knowing that I'm being observed and observed quite keenly by another person. And it's led to real anxiety. And I'm thinking about instances where I've had to show other staff members what to do on the computer, and I could feel my body shaking because I was just so kind of nervous, really. And yeah, it's been really difficult at times, and I've always tried to avoid training other staff members where possible, even if it's meant, doing a task myself instead of showing another person, which is ridiculous, really, isn't it? But it's been the only way that I could cope at times. So, being an autistic person who has rejection sensitivity dysphoria, it has been really difficult at times running a YouTube channel, I have to say. And for the most part, I've been fine with it because I have kind of been able to separate my real self or my real life self from the person that I see on screen whenever I'm editing a YouTube video or watching back a video. And I have been able to distance myself pretty well. And very often I don't see the person on screen as myself. It's just kind of a facet of myself. But every now and again, I do have a little bit of a wibble because it is a weird concept knowing that you're being watched by other people and people are really listening to what you have to say. And with that, I think comes a certain amount of responsibility, really. And I think it's that kind of worries me a little bit here and there, because although I absolutely do try my best on this, sometimes I get things wrong, as do all human beings. And since my diagnosis, I've been essentially documenting bits and bobs about my life on YouTube, and it's been so helpful for me. And knowing that my experiences are so relatable to so many of you out there has really helped me in terms of validating myself as an autistic person and trying to get rid of that whole imposter syndrome that inevitably rears its head every now and again. And for that, I'm so, so thankful. But yeah, it is quite weird being on YouTube when I really think about it. And I'm really lucky that the vast majority of the comments that I've had on my channel have been overwhelmingly really positive, and it just really demonstrates how amazing our autistic community here on YouTube is. But every now and again there will be a comment that kind of stings, and because of the whole rumination thing that my brain does very easily, it can be quite difficult now and again to shake off negative comments. So yeah, it is an interesting process because I do run a second channel for my arts, which is called Clay Disarray, and there's a difference actually in terms of negative comments, because whenever I've had a negative comments on my art channel, it's always about my art, so it's essentially quite easy to brush off because they're very often kind of derivative comments along the lines of your artwork's shit or something like that, really. But in terms of creative autistic, of course, these comments are about me as a person, or the person that they perceive me to be. So yeah, it's been interesting to see how much of a difference there is there in in dealing with negative comments, and I'd love to know if anybody else out there can relate to this, because I find it really interesting. So anyway, I would love to know if you can relate to anything that I've discussed today in terms of rejection sensitivity. And just as an aside, this is the first time that I've experimented with studio lights on one of my videos, so apologies if it looks a bit odd, but I'm determined to eventually get this right, or this setup right, but it might not be perfect today. But it's really difficult when you wear glasses to avoid kind of glare on them, so hopefully it's not been too bad, but let me know what you think either way. So anyway, I think that's going to be it for today. So thank you for watching. Give it a like if you got this far. An orange heart will always be appreciated in comments if you don't know what to say, and I'll see you again soon.